Everyone, Fergus here, and welcome back to Fergus and Friends Read. Although I'm still lacking on the friends part. Don't worry, I'll get some friends in soon. But for now, we are returning to Templeschool by Stargazer19. This time we'll be doing chapter 4 through 6. Sorry, I had to count there for a second. In my defense, it's like 10:52 p.m., so I'm a little scattered right now, and I had a long day, but that's fine. So, Chapter 4, First Day of Classes and Paranoid Suspicions. And by the way, I've already read all of this, and like all the updates that have happened between videos, and like I just really want to I just can't wait to get through it all because this fanfic is just so good. I love this fanfic. Tuya looked over his notes one last time before he turned to face Stephen, who was sitting in his desk with his notebook open to the first page. He pretended not to notice the starry-eyed look the kid was giving him. So maybe he accidentally put the glasses on again without realizing. Give him a break. They were comfortable, okay? Okay, so today we'll be learning about math. You did really well when it came to arithmetic and multiplication, but I want to work on your fractions and percentages more. Oh geez, I am bad at math. Like seriously, I barely passed math, and the only reason I did well senior year was because I took restaurant, which counted as my math class. So that was cool. Even though I did take personal finance just because everyone should really take a personal finance class. And I didn't actually do too bad with that. Like, simple multiplication and adding, subtracting, I can do that. It's when you start throwing letters and stuff into the mix, just bleh. Tui took a piece of chalk and started writing on the board. He wrote out the rules of fractions, making sure that Stephen understood the terms for nominator and denominator, then moved on to comparison between fractions, divisions, and percentages. You know what they say about the nominator and the denominator, though? There's a fine line between them. That was a bad joke, and I think I worded that wrong, but hopefully you guys know the joke. Stephen took the lesson in stride, quickly being able to answer most questions by working it on paper, but had a harder time solving the problems without it. Do I have to be able to figure out these problems without using paper? Stephen whined. It would help to learn how to do it without. This is useful when you're shopping or eating out, like noticing if you've been charged too much, calculating discounts, or figuring out how much to tip at restaurants. Tui took an eraser and cleared off the board. Don't worry about it if you can't do it right now. You'll get it down eventually. Let's move on to angles. These can be great to know for games. Stephen gasped in excitement. Really? What followed was a lengthy discussion on the use of angles in billiards and mini-golf, including drawings. Sometime during the discussion, Pearl and Amethyst had walked into the room. Pearl joined in by conjuring holographic images that detailed whatever scenario the group was talking about. Amethyst was on board for shape-shifting to test the situations out in real life. Just as Tui was about to wrap up their math lesson and move on to history, Garnet appeared from the temple. Sorry to cut your lesson short, Tui, but I have a mission for us. Everyone quickly gathered in front of her. There's a corrupted gem causing havoc in strawberry fields. It's going to be a tough catch, so we need everyone to contribute. Stephen, Tui, that means you as well. Stephen jumped up and cheered. Also, nice glasses, Tui. They look good on you. Tui blushed as he had forgotten he was wearing the glasses. He embarrassedly, I can't speak, took them off and put them on the shelf by the couch. Thanks, Garnet. The warp pad barely fit everyone as Stephen warped them to the fields. Upon arrival, they could already see the damage done to several large strawberries. Jagged lines were carved into the ground and through several berries, scattering juice all over. They began walking through the fields, looking for any sign of the corrupted gem. What kind of gem is this, Garnet? Pearl's question was interrupted when the ground rumbled violently. Everyone, in the air! Garnet yelled. She went to grab Stephen, but Tui called out. Stephen, happy place! Tui jumped up in the air, floating above the gems, and Stephen quickly did the same. The young kid had a huge grin on his face as he floated. Awesome! It worked! Pearl jumped up and grabbed Tui's hand, which he had extended for her. Amethyst quickly turned into a large falcon and hoisted Garnet into the air. The ground where they were standing was encased promptly in electricity. It sparked along the path, creating gouges in the dirt as it passed. It's a corrupted Petersite. We gotta bubble it before it electrocutes us, Garnet informed them. What's up? I feel like I looked this up when I first read this, but I forgot. Oh, this is a pretty gem. This is really pretty. I would love some of this. Nice. And of course, Steven Universe stuff pops up. Oh, was that what Bluebird was? Huh. I guess. Alright. As Stephen and Tui were still floating higher, Tui looked around for the gem. I can't see it from here, Garnet. We should follow the sparks back to their origin. As he was looking around, he noticed that the gouges looked like a half circle with lines cut through it. Stephen! Everyone looked at Tui. If I were to land at that little triangle underneath me, what fraction of the half circle am I in? Stephen looked around, catching on to what Tui was referring to. Are you seriously doing that right now? Pearl was ignored as Stephen responded. 1/8. There are eight gouges, and we're landing in one of the 8. Amethyst scoffed as they landed back on the ground. Tui, you're just as bad as Pearl. I can't believe you're turning the mission into a math lesson. So lame. Pearl glared at Amethyst. Even though she was the first to object, she would not allow Amethyst to insult learning. Excuse me, I think it's commendable that Tui has found a way to include education in the mission. Amethyst rolled her eyes at the obvious change in tune. Whatever. I'm going on without you guys. Everyone followed along the center of the discharge, all while Tui continued testing Stephen on math. If I cut that strawberry into 10 pieces and gave 20% to Garnet, how much of the strawberry would I have left? Sorry, I was doing math myself. Stephen mouthed to himself while counting on his hands. 8. You gave 2 pieces to Garnet. Tui patted Stephen on the head. Good job, Sunshine. You got it right. Stephen froze at the nickname. He went starry-eyed and squealed in delight. That's such a cute nickname! Is that my nickname? Now, it was time for Tui to freeze. I guess? Sorry, I didn't mean to call you that. He started walking again. I can call you... I can if you're okay with it, that is. There was a large blush on Tui's face. Stephen cheered in response and rushed forward to grab hold of Tui's hand. I love it! Now I need to think of a nickname for you. Tui stammered out. No, that's okay. You don't have to. When you think about it, Tui is already a nickname, right? Stephen frowned but let it go for now. The ground started to rumble again. It looks like another discharge is coming. Back in the air, Garnet called out. Everyone performed the same maneuver as earlier, as more electricity passed them. Look, there's the gem, Stephen pointed at the massive brown and gold beast up ahead. From their vantage point, they could see multiple spikes protruding at all angles from its body. It kind of looked like a spiky golden brown cotton ball creature. It lumbered through the fields in the direction of the warp. Oh geez. I don't know why I struggle with that paragraph. Amethyst, try to keep it in one place. Pearl, use your spear as a long-range weapon. Stephen, Tui, throw your shields at it. And Tui, make sure Stephen doesn't get hit by any electricity. I don't know if the electricity can go through your bubbles, and I don't want to test it. Amethyst summoned her whip and wrapped it around the beast. She slammed the end into the ground before summoning up another one. She kept this up until she had 3 whips holding it in place. Little sparks of electricity jolted down the whips, but ended at the handles staked into the ground. Pearl summoned several spears, throwing them at the beast. 2 were knocked away, and the other 3 only managed to scratch it. The creature's spikes were too sturdy for the spears to cut through. Tui picked Stephen up as the monster discharged, hopping in the air again. He scanned the situation. Stephen, summon your shield and aim it at a 45-degree angle. Stephen grinned, lining up the shot. The throw was perfect. The shield slammed into the beast's back, forcing it to the ground. I got an idea. Summon another one and hold on to it with both hands. I'll tell you when to let go, Tui shouted, landing back on the ground. Stephen prepared himself, summoning another shield. Everyone get out of the way! Stephen called. The gem stared in shock as Tui grabbed Stephen by the legs and started spinning quickly. Stephen clenched the shield tighter as the pace picked up. Move! Garnet shouted. The beast was pushing itself back into a standing position, but Stephen and Tui were ready for it. Now! Stephen let go of the shield. It shot forward with such force that it cut straight through the gem. The resulting poof was met with momentary silence. Yeah! Woo! We did it, Tui! Tui flipped Stephen around and sat him on the ground. Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst were staring at the 2 in astonishment. Stephen bubbled the gem before returning to Tui, happily gushing about their combination move. I never thought of that, Amethyst whispered. Pearl started shaking. That was extremely dangerous. What if Tui swung him too hard, or tripped, or let go of Stephen? And what if his timing was off and Stephen missed or hit one of us instead? That was very reckless of him. Garnet, we need to do something about this. Garnet placed her fingers on her visor. Tui and Stephen placed a lot of trust in each other with that move. I'm impressed at their display of teamwork. They must be getting pretty close. Pearl crossed her arms over her chest. I don't like it. He hasn't been very cooperative with our search for Perida, and I'm still worried he's telling Stephen things he shouldn't know about Homeworld. Amethyst scoffed at her. There's nothing wrong with Tui, Pearl. He probably hasn't told us anything because he doesn't want to change the future too much, or because it doesn't need to be changed yet. Pearl turned her nose up at Amethyst. Just because you're not worried doesn't mean I shouldn't be. Amethyst placed her hands on her hips. You shouldn't be. Tui's a nice guy. Stephen was telling me yesterday that Tui became a teacher because we were able to cure corrupted gems, so they needed someone to teach him about Earth. Do you really think a bad guy would do that? Her words were met with flinches. Well, we cure corruption? How? Rose couldn't even do that, and she was the only one of us with healing powers, Pearl cried out. Garnet clenched her fist tightly. We tried everything to cure corruption. I don't think anyone but a diamond could manage it. Amethyst tried to play her worry off. Maybe we just don't look hard enough, and what if Tui is a traitor? Pearl whispered. Amethyst stared at Pearl. No. What? There's no way. Tui is Stephen, remember? He would never turn traitor. Pearl rounded on Amethyst. Just think about it. Tui arrived in the past just after Homeworld started involving itself with Earth again. What if this is planned? Garnet's mind was racing at the suggestion. It's possible between our timeline and Tui's that he could end up working alongside Homeworld. His arrival caused a ripple in the time stream that opened up thousands of new possible futures. We have already had an incident where my future vision was obstructed due to unknown information. Pearl looked away in shame. A bark of laughter dragged their attention back to Tui and Stephen. The older boy was laughing at something his younger self had said. The child grabbed his arm and started dragging him towards something, probably whatever they were talking about. The thought of Stephen being manipulated by Homeworld left knots in Garnet's stomach. Keep an eye on Tui and Stephen. I want to trust him, but in light of this new information, we can't afford to be careless. If Stephen really is manipulated into aiding Homeworld, Tui will most likely guide him to that path. Pearl and Amethyst looked at each other in worry. The crystal gems are the protectors of the Earth. No matter who or what threatens its safety. Oh no! Oh no! Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst are starting to get worried about Tui. But Tui is a good guy. He is Steven from the future. Sorry, yawn. Alrighty. So, Chapter 5, Dear Old Dad. Tui was thankful that Pearl had taken Steven with her for Connie's sword training. It made it so much easier to research everything he would need for next week's museum trip. He didn't have to worry about Steven walking in any second while his phone screen was open to the webpage for the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. It also meant Tui didn't have to hide his stress. Now that Garnet and Pearl were getting along again, Steven was much happier. Tui was trying his hardest not to jeopardize the kids' good mood. You know, once this whole quarantine thing is over and everything, I am going to the museum. I know that may sound boring to some people, but I want to go to a museum. Like, there's one nearby, and by nearby I mean like an hour away, that it's filled with science stuff, and like there's so many like hands-on things you can do, like tornado stuff, tsunami stuff. It's just all so fascinating, and I want to do all that stuff once I am able to. He was lucky that the museum had free admission and that the two would be packing a lunch. Tui was anxiously tugging at his hair while he analyzed the possible cost of gas and dinner for the trip. Even though they were only a couple of hours away from the museum, Tui figured that they wouldn't be getting home until late at night. It'd be nice to take Steven to a place that he hasn't tried before anyway. The problem was Tui could see the dollar signs adding up as he planned this trip. He didn't want to borrow any money from his dad since he wasn't rich yet, so what else could he do to get some money? That's it! I could teach Steven how to tend to a garden. We could sell some of the flowers for more money, and I can teach Steven some of the science regarding plants and ecosystems. I've been wondering how to show Steven a more hands-on approach to science anyway. He opened the weather app on his phone to make sure it wouldn't rain while they would be out. The app showed nice weather for the next couple of days. Tui tucked his phone into his pocket. Now all he had to do was check in with Garnet about next Tuesday and ask his dad if he could borrow the van. They would make the garden after he made sure the field trip would occur. Right as he finished his thought, the temple door opened and Garnet stepped out. Garnet, perfect timing. Could you use your future vision to tell me if Steven and I will be needed next Tuesday? She adjusted her glasses. What are you planning to do that day? Tui gestured for her to come closer. He pulled his phone out and showed her the webpage. I want to take Steven on a field trip to the Natural History Museum. It's a couple of hours from here, so I want to make sure we don't have any missions that day. He set his phone down and showed her the notes he was taking. They have a butterfly pavilion that I know Steven is going to want to see, and lots of exhibits on history and science. I also have to ask Dad if I can borrow the van, so I need to make sure the date will work. Tui shut his book and put his phone away. Please don't tell Steven I'm planning this. I want it to be a fun surprise. Garnet hummed in acknowledgement. From what I can see, Tuesday should require no missions and nice weather. Also, I'd get going if I were you. Steven, Connie, and Pearl should be finishing up with their training right now. If you want to talk to Greg, you should leave before they arrive. Tui shoved his notebook into his bag, jotted down a quick note to Steven that he was heading out, and raced to the door. Thanks, Garnet. I owe you one. Bye. Tui released the breath he was holding when he heard the warp pad go off, right as he reached the bottom of the steps. He kept running through the beach until he was sure Steven couldn't see him. It was rare that he got time to himself these days, especially when it came to walking down the boardwalk on his own. It was odd seeing everything in the past and knowing that everything was so different in the future. So different. Tui shook his head to clear his thoughts. He was not going down that road. The young man picked up the pace, not stopping until he reached the car wash on the edge of town. The van was parked in the driveway, but he couldn't tell if his dad was inside. Dad? He knocked on the back doors to the van. He waited a couple of seconds. No response. Must be inside the car wash then. As he walked up to the entrance of the building, he could hear music playing softly inside. He opened the door and saw his dad lying on the ground halfway inside the control box. "Hey, Dad." The man crawled out, brushing dust off his pants as he stood up. His eyes lit up when he noticed who his visitor was, spreading his arms out in an invitation for a hug. "Tui, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you?" Tui hugged him. Even though the man wasn't technically his father, he was still the same caring man he looked up to. It was nice to have some semblance of normalcy in, can't say that word, in the past. "I'm doing well, thanks. I've been pretty busy between homeschooling Stephen and going on missions, so it's nice to have a little me time to come visit you." Greg chuckled. I know I'll never say no to spending time with you. Are you sure you don't mind hanging out with your old man in your free time, though?" "Well, I guess it's your younger old man to you. Sounds like you've been pretty busy lately." Tui snorted at the joke. "Dad, it's always nice to spend time with you. How's your business been?" The two made their way outside to sit in the van. Greg popped open the door and pushed them all the way to the end. "Pretty slow today. I don't think anyone else will be coming by today since it's a couple hours till closing. I'm hoping to drum up some more business tomorrow. I was working on tuning up some wires in the control panel since it's so quiet." Tui smirked at Greg. "Don't worry about it too much. Something will happen next summer to make you rich." Greg choked on his saliva. "Wait, what?" Tui started laughing. His dad lightly punched him in the arm. "You can't drop something like that on me, kiddo." He slung an arm around his son with a big grin on his face. Tui chuckled as Greg made it obvious he wanted him to continue. "I can't say too much, but let's say a certain song of yours is pretty famous." The two continued to chat for a while. Tui hadn't realized how late it was until the sun had fully set. The back of the van was illuminated only by the soft glow of moonlight. "Shoot, I was supposed to meet up with Stephen an hour ago for dinner. Sorry, Dad, I have to head back to the temple now." Tui grabbed his bag and hopped out of the van. "Oh, before I forget, could I borrow the van next Tuesday? I want to take Stephen to the Smithsonian Museum as a field trip." Greg nodded. "Of course. Will you be back that night, or should I spend the night in the temple? It'd be nice to have Dad go straight to the temple in case I got home really late. Actually, Stephen will probably appreciate Greg spending the night in general, so he could talk about the trip with them in the morning. Why don't you spend the night at the temple? We're only going for the day, but I know Stephen will want to talk to you about the trip first thing in the morning. It'll be nice to have you over anyway." "Sounds like a plan, Stubal. Good night. Love you, kiddo." Tui hugged his dad. At least this part of his dad will never change. Warmth spread through him hearing the fondness in his dad's voice. He really missed him. "Love you too, Dad. I'll come again soon." So, by the way, in case any of you are wondering, these take place post the episode Keystone Motel and post Little Graduation, but before Prickly Pear. So Tui doesn't know about his dad's past yet and all that stuff. So yeah. Alright, Chapter 6, Golden Afternoon. "What do you mean we don't have a lesson today?" Tui doubled over in laughter at the sheer disappointment in Stephen's face. Do you? Do you really like school that much? Stephen deflated on the desk. "Of course! You make it really fun. I was talking to Connie last night and she told me that her school isn't nearly as fun as ours." That made Tui blush. "Well, I'm glad to hear that. I guess we could have lessons today instead of what I planned for us to do instead." Tui tried not to let his amusement show. "Okay, we don't have to create our own garden today. I can just start on the next session of our science course." "No!" The chair scraped against the floor, and Tui had a bundle of excitement in his arms. "You didn't say we were going to make a garden? That sounds like so much fun. Please don't change your plan." Tui was stuck with another bout of laughter at Stephen's 180 response. Amethyst collapsed against the kitchen counter laughing, and even Pearl and Garnet were sporting amused smiles at Stephen's shenanigans. Why don't I join you two today? Pearl stepped forward. She summoned a pair of garden gloves, a basket, a trowel, and a sun hat from her gem. I have never performed the act of gardening, but I did read about it a couple of 100 years ago. It'd be nice to put the words into practice. That would be nice. I haven't spent a lot of time with Pearl since I arrived, and I think she could use a break from searching for Peridot. She's been really tense lately, Tui thought to himself. That would be awesome. Tui laid out several supplies on the table by the couch. These are yours, Sunshine. The gloves were a simple green, and the sun hat had a simple brown ribbon tied into a tiny bow on the side. Tui put on similar-looking gloves and sun hat. He went over to the door, where he picked up 2 milk gallons filled with water. Are you okay with going now, Pearl? It'll probably take a while to get it all done. Pearl clapped her hands in joy. Of course, it's always best to get an early start on the day. The group bade farewell to Amethyst and Garnet before heading out the door. All right, Tui. Where do you want to have a garden? Pearl questioned as they walked across the beach. He had contemplated that for a while on his way home from the car wash last night. He was stuck between having it at the lighthouse above the temple or in the forest on the edge of Beach City. He had decided on the forest in the end because he was pretty sure he remembered a pretty glade that wasn't far from the road. It would provide some shade if Stephen got tired, but still enough sunlight for the flowers. Yeah, it's in the forest. You're going to love it. Sorry, had to get a drink. Pearl originally tagged along on the garden trip just to keep an eye on Tui. There's no way he would try anything around her. However, the grove that Tui had brought them to was breathtaking. The sunlight gave the grove an ethereal glow. Butterflies fluttered nearby, and birds chirped harmlessly in the trees. I must admit you were right. I do love it. Tui smirked at the admission. He pulled out several packs of seeds from his pocket and handed them to Stephen. I've got tiger lilies, daffodils, morning glories, and dandelions. Pearl pulled out some seeds from her basket. I also have tulips and violets. Stephen looked back and forth between the seeds. Let's plant all of them. Tui and Pearl blinked in surprise. They shared a look before they broke out into laughter. I don't even know why we asked, Pearl teased. The group set their seed packets into the basket. Tui pulled out 2 cultivators. Pearl and I can start cultivating the ground. If you want, you can start burying the seeds. Stephen took out a little plastic cup that Pearl included in the basket. He poured a small number of seeds from every bag into the cup. He swirled the seeds around a couple of times to make sure they were all mixed in, and then started randomly planting them. A couple hours passed with the group none the wiser. The warm glow of the afternoon sun brightly lit the grove they were working in. Tui was pouring water into a watering can, and Pearl was leaning against the tree as Stephen finished planting the last of the seeds. Okay, you guys, I'm done. Stephen placed the cup back into the basket. Tui motioned Stephen to come over. I thought it'd be nice if we could sell these in town today, so I thought you could add some spit to the watering can. Isn't that just gonna bring them to life? Like with watermelons, Stephen? Stephen frowned as he recalled how much trouble the watermelons caused. Tui couldn't blame him for worrying about it. That day was an absolute mess. It doesn't seem to work that way with flowers. I've always healed flowers after I picked them, and I grew some from dead soil before using my spit. That was enough to soothe Stephen's worries. He wiped his hands on his shirt and then dipped a spit-covered finger into the watering can. The whole garden was shimmering after Stephen watered it. They watched as the stems grew out of the ground and the flowers blossomed. Wow, they're so pretty! Stephen's idea to plant the seeds randomly produced a gorgeous, multicolored garden of flowers. Tui held out some scissors. Now it's time to cut some and make bouquets. After we finish, we can water them one more time so that the flowers look like this again. Everyone grabbed a pair of scissors and picked a spot to start cutting flowers. I want to make a flower garden. I actually had plans to make a little fairy garden. where some cherry trees grow. It's like right outside my window and it's all pretty and I love it. It was much easier to cut the flowers than it was to plant them all. The group had finished their task fairly quickly, and one more round of magic-infused water had left the garden in full bloom again. Some butterflies had come out due to the flowers and were fluttering beside them. As they were making their way back to town, Stephen rifled through the basket of flowers he was holding. He picked up a tulip and gestured for Pearl to bend down. Oh, Jesus, a song. What song is this? Hold on. I don't want to sing out of tune and then people get mad at me. Little pretty butterflies.
Many minutes later.
Alright, okay, I got it this time. Little pretty butterflies kiss the tulips. Pearl smiled as Stephen tucked the tulip behind her ear. And the sun is like a toy balloon. There are get up in the morning glories, in the golden afternoon. Tui smiled as Stephen bounced forward and happily floated back down. Pearl twirled to the song before gesturing to the lighthouse in the hill in the distance. There are dizzy daffodils in the hillside, strings of violets all in tune. She took a violet out of Stephen's basket and placed it in his hair. He laughed in delay as she continued her verse. Tiger lilies love the dandelions in the golden afternoon. She gestured to the trees where they could see birds singing. There are birds and caterpillars and the copper centipede. She motioned Stephen to come over. They peered at a caterpillar crawling on a leaf, and then turned to watch the centipede dig into the ground. Where the lazy daisies love the peaceful life they lead. Stephen pulled the daisy out of the basket and tugged on Tui's shirt. Tui knelt down for Stephen to place the daisy behind his ear. As Stephen pulled away, Tui quickly took the basket from him, grabbed the boy around the waist, and hoisted him to his shoulders. Stephen leaned on Tui's head as the trio made their way back to town. The young boy sighed in content as he finished the song. You can learn a lot of things from the flowers, words and feelings you attune. There's so much joy and love you can spread out in the golden afternoon. Oh geez, I haven't listened to that song in forever, and I just started. This took me so long to succeed with that. Shouldn't have taken me that long. Pearl smiled fondly as Stephen finished the song. I'm sure you'll spread a lot of joy today when we sell these flowers at the boardwalk. When they reached the edge of the boardwalk, Tui set Stephen down. Pearl summoned the supplies they needed to wrap the flowers into bouquets. She arranged every bouquet beautifully. Tui wrapped them in a bow, and Stephen went around the boardwalk with the flowers. He gave Stephen a small portion of their earnings and saved the rest in a sandwich bag for the trip. All in all, it was a pretty successful day. You don't even want to know how many tries it took me to get that song right. And honestly, the whole time I was listening into my ear while I was singing. La la la. But man, Alice in Wonderland is a really good movie. I should watch that again. And I'm talking about the animated one. I also want to read the book. Anyway, so yeah, that was chapter 4 through 6 of Templeschool. And this is really just a good story, and I wish I could leave more kudos, but no. You can only leave one kudos. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed and you weren't too put off by my singing voice. I had to like change pitch a little bit because I can now sing as high as they do in the movie. And if you for some reason like my singing and want to hear more of it, you can check out my other channel, which should appear in the iCard right now, hopefully. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed and have a great day or night. Fergus out. Woo.